Now the game's simple. The best ones are. You want mercy? Play by the rules.
So now we've come down to it. Jigsaw is the latest entry into this franchise, and it is the sort of soft reboot, if you will, of this series. And it is directed by some new directors, of course, just like almost every Saw sequel is. This one's directed by the Spierg brothers, I think is their names. I can't remember. And I think this is the best looking Saw movie since Saw 1, which is not really saying much because Saw 2 through 7 are pretty awfully shot.
This journey has been one of discovery, and hopefully you've discovered the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
This one looks good. This one is actually looks and feels like a legitimate movie. This one actually feels like it deserves to be in theaters. And not only that, but almost everything from a technical standpoint is pretty on point. But that's about where the positives stop, because Jigsaw is really dumb. And it's not to say that this is a bad movie. I don't think it's really that bad. It's just a weird one. Like, it's not one that I remember much about, to be honest. It sort of rides this line where I wasn't, like, super entertained, but I wasn't bored either. It's surprisingly well-paced and cuts between the A and B story pretty seamlessly without any jarring transitions like in Saw 4. And everything flows pretty well. So it's weird. It's weird that I didn't like this movie more. I sort of came out of it feeling nothing. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. It's very mediocre. It doesn't go crazy extreme in the gross out area like Saw 6, for example, or Saw 7. And it doesn't go like crazy into the scare thriller side of Saw movies either. It's right down the middle. Like, there's a couple traps that seem to want to be gross, but a lot of the deaths happen off screen. Like, anytime somebody dies, they're either off screen or blurred, which is very weird. And then when it tries to like legitimately scare you, all the tension's taken away by you not caring about the characters. There are like 9 main characters in this movie, and none of them have any development whatsoever. And that's the ultimate downfall with this movie, much like many movies, is that it just can't figure out how to flesh out characters. And I don't know what's so difficult about this. So the traps here aren't that interesting, the characters aren't that interesting, and it doesn't go to any extreme in any way. It's like a Disney version of a Saw movie, which is weird to say, I know. Let me explain. I feel like this movie doesn't take any risks. It is a definite soft reboot in the way that like Force Awakens is, where it just does the same thing that they've always been doing, except it sort of modernizes it. And that is why Jigsaw doesn't really work for me. It's not bad. I'd say it's very mediocre.
The truth will set you free.
Help!
But it's weird because I never found myself bored. Like I said, it's pretty well paced, but I think a lot of that comes down to the fact that I was just constantly looking for the plot twist because I knew there would be one, and there always is one. So I was constantly looking at the characters and thinking, are you working with Jigsaw or are you working with Jigsaw? Because I knew that would be the plot twist. That's the same plot twist that they always do, so I was just looking for that. I was like, okay, who's working with him? And then that's the plot twists. It's like, both of the twists don't really work and are very underwhelming because they don't really change the movie at all. Like, you find out who's working with Jigsaw and it's like, oh, okay, so? And then you find out how Tobin Bell is actually in this movie, and you're like, oh, okay. So, and that's what kind of sucked about this movie, is that it's a very traditional, risk-free sequel to a series that, for the most part, has been running for a long time and has been doing its own thing, really. It's been doing this kind of gross-out, gore-fest thing, and this movie just plays it very safe.
It was a game. Game's gonna be won. It's Jigsaw.
So I don't know if I could recommend this movie. If you like the Saw movies, you're probably going to see this anyway. But if you don't, then I don't know. I don't think it's worth recommending. I don't think it does anything well enough to say that it's worth seeing, but it doesn't do anything bad enough to say stay away. So if you want to see this movie, you've probably already seen it, but I'd say if you want to see it, go see it. If you don't, then don't. It's kind of the least interesting movie in this franchise, except for like 2 or 3. Probably the least interesting since 3.